Great. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this webinar on the second regranting facility of the Guatemala Entrepreneurship Development Initiative, better known as GEDI. On behalf of ANDE, we're really glad that you can join us today. And we'll start with a couple of introductions. My name is Alyssa Moen. I am the program manager for GEDI. And I'm joined today by a couple team members, including Evelyn Hernandez, who is a colleague here in Guatemala with me, and also Andrea Quintanilla, who supports the GEDI program as part of the ANDE Central America and Mexico chapter. We also have a number of team members who are supporting GEDI from Washington, D.C. and other places. And they're really sort of the core of this group, and we really are grateful for an excellent team. Our agenda for today is as follows. We'll review the objective of the session, provide you with some housekeeping tips about the webinar, and then we'll really jump into the overview of what we're looking for with the second regranting facility, provide some tips on eligibility, thematic areas of interest, and we've left ample time for questions at the end, and really hope this is an opportunity to clarify and provide guidance. As I noted, our objective is really to provide an overview of the GEDI second regranting facility, clarification around the call for concept notes, and to help facilitate the application process, especially for organizations who may have, for whom this may be sort of a newer experience or who have less experience applying for international opportunities like the GEDI Fund. Before we jump into the meat of the webinar, I did want to just cover a bit of housekeeping. For your information, this webinar is being recorded, and it, along with this PowerPoint presentation, will be available on the ANDE website on our GEDI Fund page, along with all relevant information about the call for concept notes and additional resources. Please be sure to put questions in the Q&A box. There's a little chat box, and we will be answering those as we go. And as I said, we do have time at the end of the call to answer other questions that come up. Also, we have uploaded an FAQ, a frequently asked questions document, already on the website, and we encourage you to read through that and use it as a reference as you're developing your proposal, your concept notes, because it has a lot of information already in there that we hope can help clarify. We will be updating that FAQ document with the questions that come up today. We may not be able to get to all of the questions in the session today, but rest assured that they will be addressed in that document. So before we begin specifically with the concept note, I just wanted to provide an overview of the GEDI initiative. It's a 3-year public-private partnership between ANDE, the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, and several different private sector partners who are all interested in investing in entrepreneurship in Guatemala. And through GEDI, USAID and ANDE are helping to foster a stronger entrepreneurial ecosystem to bring economic prosperity to communities who have been heavily impacted by irregular migration from Guatemala. GEDI is, over these 3 years, developing a coordinated set of expanded business support services available to entrepreneurs, and with this particular focus on supporting enterprises and entrepreneurs that are either run by, employing, or serving the needs of women, indigenous communities, rural communities more generally, and focused on youth. And really, our ultimate goal for this second regranting facility is to support organizations that are helping small and growing businesses to access improved markets, to access new opportunities to finance, to access business development, support services for investment readiness, and ultimately to increase economic development opportunities in Guatemala. ANDE actually has a long history of running regranting facilities like this. Actually, since 2009, there have been multiple catalyst or challenge funds, particularly focused on the small and growing business sector. This is the first time a fund like this or a mechanism like this has been run in Guatemala. So we have, we're really excited and are learning a lot along the way. The target, as I mentioned, has always really been around supporting the small and growing business sector, and really through entrepreneur support organizations. The ANDE's strategic priorities more broadly help to contribute to the SDGs around gender equality, decent work and economic growth, as well as climate and environmental action. And you'll see in the thematic areas that these themes are also, for the second regranting facility, that these themes are really integrated. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really about fostering a stronger entrepreneurial ecosystem and bringing economic prosperity to the entire country of Guatemala. Specifically, the GEDI Fund is pooling resources and investment from USAID and multiple private sector partners. In terms of a geographic scope for the call and for the fund, we're looking across the country. You may, if you saw the first regranting facility, you may recall that there were specific departments or states within Guatemala that were a focus. In the second regranting facility, we've opened it up to all departments across Guatemala. Both nonprofit and for-profit entrepreneur support organizations are eligible to apply. ANDE members and non-members alike are welcome to apply. We are also this time looking at a range of funding that's a little bit smaller than the last time. We're looking for grants, or not just grants, but for projects between or up to $300,000. And for nonprofits, there will be grants. If you happen to be a for-profit organization looking to apply, it will be in a contract, sort of some fine print we can get into later. And I did want to mention that we always use a cost reimbursable model. And so that means that projects will be reimbursed on a quarterly basis. And it's very important that projects are able to start implementation of projects with other funding. After the first quarter, funds will be reimbursed, or project costs will be reimbursed, but the GEDI Fund is unable to provide startup costs. This is an important point just to have clear. There was some I think there's been some confusion in the past round, and so we just wanted to make sure that was emphasized. In terms of the timeline, the call was launched last Friday, December 9th, and we're accepting concept notes through the end of January 30th, 2023. After a review process, shortlisted applicants will be invited to submit full proposals on March 1st, and those who are invited for a full proposal will be given additional information around the format and additional documentation that we might need for that next phase. And the deadline for the full proposal is March 31st, 2023, and we expect to announce the selected organizations in May of next year, May 2023, with the intention that the implementation would start in July and run for 12 months. That's another change from the first regranting facility, and reflects also the budget scope. It's a shorter amount of time, and so we're really looking for opportunities that need that extra boost over a shorter amount of time to implement impactful activities. Organizations that are eligible to apply include nonprofit and for-profit entrepreneur support organizations. This could include incubators and accelerators, business development, service providers, capacity development providers, NGOs, civil society, just to name a few. And Organizations that are not eligible to apply include government agencies, donor financing institutions, or grant-making foundations. We also want to mention that current GEDI subgrantees from our first cohort, who are the leads on the projects, are ineligible to apply either as a project lead or actually as part of a consortium or as a subcontractor. However, organizations who form part of a consortium, not as a lead of the first cohort, are eligible to apply. In terms of the concept note format and content, we are accepting 5-page concept notes. The first is just a cover page with organizational overview and information. And then we would expect a narrative description of your proposed interventions and activities, your linkages to the thematic tracks that we'll go over next, and then a high-level, line item breakout of your budget. Again, it's only 5 pages, 1 for the cover page, 3 for the narrative, and you can have a separate page for the budget. Please submit it in PDF. All the templates and the application platform where everything will be submitted is again found on the ANDE website. We are also accepting this time around, we're accepting applications in both English and Spanish. We're hoping that that provides organizations an opportunity to express their proposals in the best way and most comfortable way possible. And all of the documents about the concept note, the FAQs, and everything is in both English and Spanish. And so we hope that our intent has been to make this a more inclusive process, and hope that's helpful for those of you applying. This time around, we also have asked, or will ask applications to choose a thematic track. And here's what I'm going to go through each of these tracks that we have outlined. It's not necessary. Proposals can choose one or multiple tracks. There are no bonus points for having all of the boxes checked. You can choose 1 or 4. I think the most important thing that we'll be looking for is a coherence between, if you're working under multiple tracks, how those tracks fit together, how the activities, really form a coherent project altogether. So under agriculture, we're looking for initiatives from entrepreneur support organizations that support rural agricultural small enterprises and consider one or more of the following aspects. This could be agro-industrial products, transformation of local products, sustainable production, forest-free or environmentally friendly or climate resilient agricultural solutions, or innovations in the value chain. We're also looking for proposals from ESOs that are supporting businesses and offering services related to agriculture. That could be around logistics, could be around innovative agricultural products, the incorporation of new technologies into processes, and as well as e-commerce services. Finally, under this agriculture umbrella, we're looking for initiatives from entrepreneur support organizations that also are supporting businesses related to the forest production supply chains, for example, non-timber forest products. This could also include promoting conservation or biodiversity regeneration. It can include ecotourism, community tourism, and food systems more broadly. Other thematic tracks include clean or renewable energy, so initiatives that are supporting small and growing businesses that are focused on providing products or services that are related to climate change mitigation or natural disaster prevention. These could be technology-based solutions that are focused on mitigating climate change, as well as nature-based solutions. We're also looking this time for initiatives that are supporting small and growing businesses whose models or products address water and sanitation issues with innovative approaches that include a circular economy approach. And finally, in terms of thematic areas, this is something that's been added this time around, is we're also looking for organization or proposals that include organizational or ecosystem strengthening components. So this could include proposals from funds that are driving investment to the region, or funding to strengthen specific organizational areas within an entrepreneur support organization to make them even more effective at supporting their clients. So this is important to keep in mind in terms of proposals from funds. I just want to clarify that no GEDI funding can be used for profit making. So if a fund were to apply, it would have to be very clear that that the activities that they're proposing are not profit-making activities, but rather, pipeline development or refining processes. And in terms of funding to specific organizational areas, that's really looking at an organizational component to improve the client service. So we're open to those types of initiatives as well. As I mentioned, all of the resources, including the overview for the call for concept notes, the online application form, the link to the online application form, the template, and the FAQs are all available on the website, andeglobal.org/funding/GEDI. Again, those are available in English and in Spanish. For the selection process, just wanted to give you a quick overview of what we'll be doing on the back end. First, after we receive all the concept notes, our internal project team and ANDE will be screening the concept notes using the criteria and using a matrix that we've set out to ensure that submissions are meeting basic qualifying criteria. And then using that same matrix, our committee will identify the top applicants who will be invited to submit a full proposal, and that will be, you'll be notified by March 1st. And then once all of the full proposals are received, an external selection committee, which includes third-party experts, our ANDE staff, and partners and other GEDI private sector partners in USAID will review the final proposals to make the final decisions, and those decisions will be announced in May 2023. Criteria for winning proposals includes, just following the basic submission guidelines and responding to the criteria that we have laid out. The demographic and geographic scope, as I noted earlier, there's not a specific geographic requirement. Again, submissions should connect to those thematic tracks and show a coherent story of your activities, your interventions, and how they're contributing to the goals of GEDI, and also following the budget parameters. Again, we're looking at this point for a pretty high level sort of overarching line item of our budgets with line items, but that really do demonstrate how you expect to use the requested funding for the activities. There are some costs that are unallowable. We've outlined this in the FAQ, and we will clarify it further in that FAQ document, but those also include equipment costs and seed capital, and other elements that we will outline specifically. Although consortia are not required, we really encourage compelling partnerships within the GEDI initiative to help strengthen the ecosystem, more broadly. We're looking also at value for money within not only of the whole project, but also if you are working with partners and showing clear and complementary roles and how the funds are being used to support each activity and that impacts you expect to reach. We really do encourage local Guatemala-based organizations to apply and hope that the resources that we have that we're sharing today and in the future will be helpful to organizations who can see a role and an opportunity for themselves in this second round. And finally, while also not a requirement, we always welcome proposals that are already leveraging private sector partnership or investment that is already underway and that also demonstrates the sustainability of the initiative that you are proposing. In terms of staying in touch, please do register for the ANDE newsletter. We have both global newsletters and regional newsletters. You can here at these two links. And of course, our website is an important place to go for resources for not only GEDI, but also other ANDE activities. And please do follow us on social media. We have all of the different links here for our Latin America chapter and our global chapters as well. You can stay up to date on other activities that ANDE is doing, the latest research around, related to the small and growing business sector, et cetera. And now I would like to open it up for Q&A. I think we have a couple questions in the chat box, or feel free to add them as we go, and we'll answer them the best we can here today. And as I said, we'll also be updating the FAQ document. Maybe my team could help.
Yes.
Thanks.
There is some questions regarding the metrics that we are using in some of the projects. Let me just read the question. It says, would it be possible to review the standardized metrics and they applies to all projects?
At this point, we can share our monitoring and evaluation team member couldn't join us today. There are some standard metrics or indicators that we're using, and I will, if we can share those in the FAQ document, we will. That is a part of the requirement for the full proposal, so it's probably more applicable at that stage. But given that this is an entrepreneurship focused fund, we're looking at ways that we can show impact in strengthened businesses and new opportunities or new connected market connections. Those are just examples off the top of my head, not our specific by the book metrics, but I would keep those in mind as you're thinking about the types of results that you want to show through your initiative.
There is another question that says, the call mentions that concept notes should show how solutions can be replicated and scaled by ESOs in the broader SGV support sector. Can you give greater clarity on what level of replication and scale is sought in the projects under this facility?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's really going to vary depending on what your interventions are. I think what GEDI is trying to do is look at how we can transform the entrepreneurial ecosystem with all different players, integrating different market actors across the ecosystem. And so given that this is a shorter timeline and, a specific, with a specific funding range, I think it's important to keep in mind that we're looking, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're looking for opportunities that that need that extra boost or need that help, need additional support to go from here to here, from one level to the next, in terms of being able to reach clients or being able to reach impact, and to have models that don't only work in one particular context with one particular population. Obviously, we understand that even across Guatemala, context varies from region to region, but in terms of models that we can take from one industry to the other or within a certain sector, that would be really interesting to see. And I think the GEDI partners as well are looking for that kind of replicability as well.
There's another question that says, hello, ANDE GEDI team. Please, can you confirm what is the expectation related to a potential cost share for an organization with interest in this opportunity?
Thanks, great question. There are no requirements around cost share. As I mentioned in the criteria or successful criteria for winning proposals, we always like to see where there is additional investment in an initiative. Again, that speaks to a broader interest and potential for sustainability, but there is no specific requirement around cost share.
There's another question here. Maybe we would need some more clarity from the person who asked the question. The question is it possible for a social impact for-profit food company to apply directly? If not, can we apply through a partner organization?
Yeah, I mean, I guess not knowing the specifics of the company, I probably can't answer that specifically, but as we noted, for-profit company or organizations can apply, and we also welcome your partnership with another organization if you think it makes sense. Again, partnerships are not required, but they're encouraged where you find complementarity. And yeah, I hope that answers your question. And if you want to clarify it in the chat box while we're still on the line, I would be happy to try to clarify further.
There's another question that says, is there a range in terms of the number of SGVs that applicants should be expected to reach under this regranting?
We don't have those specifications laid out at this point. Again, I think we would leave that up to you as the expert in terms of your intervention and the communities or the clients with whom you're working. And looking again at value for money, like where you think the best use of funds can reach either in the deepest or the broadest way. But we're at this point, there are no set parameters for targets.
We don't have any other questions. I don't know if anyone else would like to ask a question.
Anything else? Again, all of the questions will be updated. We did have a webinar this morning in Spanish. There were several questions that came through there, and we'll be clarifying in the FAQ document. So please check back there, and please again stay updated on all of our social media platforms in case you are not connected there. and we'll be in touch with updates. And I also did want to mention that we will be having sort of office hours on Thursday, July 12th. We'll be doing,
January.
I'm sorry, January. Sorry, thank you, Andrea. We will be having office hours on Thursday, January 12th. We have 1 hour in English, in Spanish, and 1 hour in English. So we will be sending around to those who registered for this webinar, and it'll also be available on the website. If you have other questions that come up in the development of your initiative or in, you know, as you're needing clarification on certain points, please feel free to send through your questions there. And we'll take that hour to, you know, live in the moment to review questions and answers that you might have prior to the deadline. Anything else?
I think there are no more questions.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and we will be following up with links to this recording and to the PowerPoint and any other resources that you might need. And thanks again for your interest, and we'll look forward to seeing your concepts at the end of January.